Section on PUDs. How much the ground was required? 30%. Oh, there we go.
Everybody, all right.
Oh,
It's 5 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting. And we'll start with the roll call members.
Okay, Mr. McManaway.
Present.
Mr. Strati.
Present.
Samuelson.
present.
Mr. Osborne.
Present.
Mr. Good.
Present.
James. Mr. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Cooper.
Present.
And Frederick.
Oh, no.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I think we have to approve unless anything was on that meeting. We'll leave them before it. Okay. So. We have a public hearing tonight, but before we go into public hearing, I just want to read what a plan unit development is for those that do not know exactly what plan unit development is. And I'm just going to give the definition as far as what it's for. And a plan unit development is an area under single ownership or control to be developed in conformance with an approved secondary plan consisting of a map showing the development area and all improvements to the development area, a text which sets forth the uses and the development standards to be met, and exhibits setting forth any aspects of the plan not fully described in the map and text. The uses and standards expressed in secondary plan constitute the use and development regulations for the plan unit development site. So there are things that will have to be discussed as far as what they are developing, and everybody will get a chance to speak after the presentation from them. And so at this time, anything I need to add to that, but
No, you just need a motion to open it. Then.
right. So at that time, I will entertain a motion to open public hearing.
I motion that we move to open the public hearing. Second.
First and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing 2022-002P. It's for the PUD at 415 East Lakeshore. And who is presenting this?
Good evening, afternoon.
State your name.
My name is Steve Stofko with Mech Engineering, representing Mirror Homes, developer of the property located between Lakeview Drive and Coolidge Street, between Lakeview Street, Lake Coolidge Street on the south side of Lakeshore Drive. The property, as you can see here, is approximately a third of an acre. The proposed development constitutes 2 buildings. The 2 buildings are the building A, which is 3 units, a 2-story building, and building B, which is 4 units, which constitutes an English style basement, which is half sunk into the ground, 4 feet into the ground, with 2 stories above. The rear contains the parking, and there is a building C, which is basically just an outbuilding for golf cart parking. The utilities are going to be stormwater conveyed through the parking lot on Coolidge Street. Sanitary will be coming off of Coolidge Street, and water from the adjoining streets. Per the comments that we had from TAC and our previous meeting, We have provided the city with green space calculations that is on here. The green space calculation for the site out of a total lot area of 15,529 square feet. There is 2,572 square feet, which accommodates 16.6% green space. Aside from that, the lot access for the rear lot would be directly off Coolidge Street, understanding that that is one way, with potential parking along the perimeter of the parking, for the perimeter of the site as well.
Show this.
Sure.
Anybody have any questions? Looking for questions now?
No,
No, just, you asked if we had any questions, so I was just confirming. I thought that's the case, thank you.
sorry for the delay. While they're doing, I do want to welcome everybody and we appreciate your time to come in and give us your concerns, input.
No, I mean, 2.5, we can get the bank.
We could turn that around. Sorry.
Let's do this. Sorry.
Now, go ahead.
The elevations, which we have here, are to illustrate the style of building. There's some architectural details that were going to be refined prior to submitting for actual site plan permitting for this site. But the building essentially is approximately 27 feet, pending a couple of architectural changes, with a flat roof, the two 10-foot floors we were talking about, and the English style basement on building B, which is the tallest building, and 25 feet for building A, which is the Lakeview side. See that. Pardon?
Did you mention the heights there?
25 foot for building A, Lakeview, and 27 feet plus or minus for building B.
Thank you.
Mr. DeWitt, we could probably turn that around time if they have questions, if they want to. Go outside too. Go ahead.
How second you listen?
Is that everything?
Yes.
We have covered that. Any discussion between the members? Any discussion at all? I know we've discussed this several times.
What's the legal usual green space percent?
10%. 10% is the minimum required.
Okay.
The golf cart building in the back, will that be enclosed or will it be three-sided and open?
It will be enclosed.
Okay.
Do they say three-sided or do they say closed?
Closed in.
So we got 3 stories.
2.5. The English basement is partially something without the foundation.
3 full stories.
No,
No, 2 stories on Lakeview. Well, this is west. This is Lake North, and this is Lakeview. Lakeshore.
Lakeshore, right. This is, that's Lakeview.
Lakeview, this is 2 stories.
We originally didn't show 3 stories.
Yeah, that's true. So what is that?
We've been going back and forth discussing the layout since it's on the interior.
So everything you can see up here on the screen.
Yes.
Did we not have comments yet until your,
Yeah, we want to hold the conversation so minimum.
You'll have to give your name and address when you go to comment, so go ahead, Gary, sorry.
I don't mind. Any of the members have any questions as far as anything like that?
I have a question or clarifying comment. So Barry, if I understand the PUD process from the last time we went through this, what we'd be looking at tonight is rezoning to a residential PUD. And there would be a secondary step in terms of final elevations, finishes, streetlights, that sort of detail.
That sort of detail will be discussed later as far as what it is. And I mean, if it is approved now, it would be with those conditions.
Okay.
That they be met. Because since what they're doing, there's not a secondary plan other than what they're building here, which naturally there's not enough space to put anything else. But as far as anything else done, I mean, no permit will be passed until everything is finalized. But as far as the zoning itself, so everybody knows, as far as the PUD zoning, it's when it's approved by the town council, then it would actually become a PUD zoning. If you have a question on that, we can get to that too. Anybody, Dan, Wayne, you have anything? Mr. Commissioner, do you have anything to add to this or?
I've taken a look at this, been on the property many times. Would I,
Can you speak quiet?
you either have to be quiet or we're going to ask you to leave.
Could we possibly entertain a change of venue? There's almost as many people outside wanting to hear as there are inside, and we cannot hear.
This
We
is actually,
appreciate
I know this is being recorded,
well,
so.
we understand there might be a vote in an hour or so, and so a recording isn't going to help very much.
Right,
There's a lot of interested people out here,
and
and we can't hear or see.
It's just being,
So
Okay.
maybe it's possible we could find a larger room.
timing wise, we wouldn't have time to change the venue.
No.
Reschedule.
We
if you're
can't.
gonna do that.
We've advertised this venue, but anyone from out there will have a chance to speak. If
Yeah.
they want to come in.
You will have a chance to speak and ask questions before there's any votes. And I mean, each side come in, but you will get a chance to speak. And if you have no questions, I mean,
This is ridiculous. The stallings are screwing.
we had more than that in here.
Yeah. That's what-
Yeah. Bigger building.
Maybe more of a time.
Hey, Dean. You put a big rec area in your ship. On 4/5 inning.
Yeah, like-
I'm curious how the homeowner next door feels about it.
There we go. Bring-
Which I don't. All right. Sorry about this, people. All right, if nobody else has any discussion, members?
Better open it up before-
Yeah, I know.
Chuck was just getting started.
But at this time, we will address the citizens and anybody concerned. I'd like to ask that we hold each person like 4 minutes. I want you to state your name and address so the secretary can record this. And you are being recorded, so anything, I'd like to ask everybody else not to be interrupting the speaker. We're trying to show a little respect and maybe it'll go a little smoother. But other than that, if anybody has any questions this time, raise your hand. And all right, got a gentleman right here.
I'm Steve Snyder. I'm an attorney from Syracuse. And I'm here representing a number of people, including Jeff Mansfield, Bob Birovic, Matt Nagel, and Doug and Shan Farmer, all of whom reside in the immediate area of this proposed project. Pardon me, I need to share a little face. Tried to make enough copies for this meeting and the council meeting. So I'm going to ask that you share what I'm handing out. So that I'm clear on what your proposal is this the secondary approval of the PUD or the primary?
It will be both because there is no secondary.
Okay. Then there are a couple things that I think really need to be taken into consideration from a procedural standpoint. I'll tell you, when I first saw this project, the thought that came to my mind is somebody's trying to cram 10 pounds into a 5-pound bag, and it won't fit. When you look at what I've handed out, what you have is a C2 zone in the middle of an R1 zone. That's shown on the first page. And everything around this C2 zone is R1, single family residential. What you're now proposing is multifamily residential in the form of a planned unit development. Setbacks are 2.5 feet, 5 feet, 2 feet, 2.5 feet. There's 7 parking spaces when 14 would be required. There's minimal green space, which is nothing more than some grass between the building and the sidewalks. The development standards aren't even coming close to being met, and it simply isn't compatible to an R1 zone. But a couple things that I think are really crucial, and I know I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to try and point them out early on in my argument. Your zoning ordinance, when it discusses planned unit development, says the PUD shall not be allowed where this zoning classification is sought primarily to avoid the imposition of standards and requirements of other zoning classifications. Planned unit developments are typically a mix of uses, typically commercial and residential combined, but it can be others. There's no commercial here. It's all residential. It's an attempt to avoid all of your R1 and R2 development standards by just calling it a PUD and eliminating all the setbacks, eliminating the parking requirements. It simply can't be done under the language of your own ordinance. There's another problem as well. Development standards are usually not imposed by a zoning ordinance for a planned unit development district. Your ordinance does impose development standards in a planned unit development zoning district. And those standards aren't being anywhere close to being met here. But state statute says the only body that can grant a variance from development standards is the Board of Zoning Appeals. And this is an attempt to have the Plan Commission grant variances. Normally in an ordinance for a PUD, you won't find development standards, knowing that the Plan Commission is going to set them when they adopt a planned unit development plan. But in the case of your ordinance, you have setback requirements, 50 feet from the street. You have square footage requirements, 25,000 square feet. None of those are being met, yet none has been varied by an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So I question whether there's even a possibility that tonight this development could be approved because the Board of Zoning Appeals hasn't approved the variances. Even if you did approve the planned unit development district rezoning from C2 to PUD, they still can't move forward with a development because your development standards haven't been varied by the Board of Zoning Appeals. I've tried to attach all of what I think are the relevant portions of your zoning statute to give you an idea of what it is you're looking at. The first thing I read was, in my opinion, the most significant. But when you look at development standards, those are imposed in a PUD district, just like they are in an R1, an R2, or a commercial district. and variances from those by state statute can only be granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals. If you look at the standards for a planned unit development district, 21,780 square feet is the minimum size of a PUD. 30 seconds. Okay, 300 feet is the minimum size of the width. Every zoning district has a developmental standard of 2 spaces per dwelling. No parking spaces here. There's no handicap space shown, required by federal and state law. There are 7 parking spaces. Where are the other typical 7 units going to be? They don't even come close from a square footage standpoint. And I would ask you to review all these materials since my time's up.
Steve, I'll give you my 4 minutes. Doug Farmer, 225 Lakeview Street. Doug Farmer, 225 Lakeview. Please, I allocate my time to Steve.
I don't believe that's possible. If you want to speak, you have 4 minutes. He is
Is
already
that
spoken.
written somewhere? Is that a policy that's written?
Where are you coming up with that?
It's a question.
Thank you very
Can
much.
she answer it?
We just want,
There's one more thing I want to say, even though I'm out of time. If you're planning on adopting this and recommending it to the council, who is then going to follow up with approval tonight, there is a statutory appeal period from any decision you make tonight. Because unlike any other rezoning, which is a legislative act and you make a recommendation, Section 1016 of the state zoning statute says this is an appealable decision and a petitioner has 30 days from your decision tonight in which to initiate the appeal.
thank you. Anybody else have anything?
All right, I'll get started.
Your name and
Jeffrey Mansfield, 222 Lakeview. So I guess there's a couple of issues. In that packet, you may see some pictures that I have taken regarding the setback from the corner. And if I remember your zoning code, it has like a 50-foot corner setback for visibility purposes. I went out there with my car, I took photos, and then I imposed the photos on the photos where those, how the building would look. And basically, I have a real concern with the safety on that corner because the visibility around that corner is going to be really difficult. And, you know, especially turning north or going north on
What are you talking
Lakeview.
about right here, this corner?
Yes,
Okay.
it's 2 feet off of the sidewalk for Lakeshore and 5 feet off the sidewalk for Lakeview. So it's going to be a really difficult corner to see around, and I anticipate it's going to be a potential for traffic accidents. Also, many of us in the neighborhood suffered damages to our homes during the fire when that building burned. I had over $7,500 worth of damages. And my understanding is there are additional fire standards that have to be met on a development this size. And I was wondering, has it been reviewed? Has that plan been reviewed by the fire department? And is it in conformance with state statutes, not only your local building statutes as far as fire? Have a concern with the construction entrance being located off of Coolidge, in that that's a brick street and you're going to be bringing heavy equipment off that brick street. How is that street going to be protected? Is it going to be protected, and what will be the remedy if it is damaged during build? Also, this is kind of a minor point. There is a light pole in the middle of the sidewalk on Coolidge, and that sidewalk is very limited, a very narrow sidewalk anyway. I see that as an accident waiting to happen. There's also traffic concerns with traffic, with Coolidge being one way. People coming out are not going to want to turn and go around the block. I can see out of my back window now people going up Coolidge the wrong way all the time. That's just going to be exasperated. Or they're actually going to be turning into the alleyway and going over the state and out, which is going to be a burden to those homeowners. So those are some of my concerns. I know others have more, and I'll let them bring up those other issues.
Thank you.
So Doug Farmer, 225 Lakeview, I guess, Jeff, just to expand on yours, given the access point to these condos is only off of Coolidge, and Coolidge is one way, there's only one way for those cars to leave that structure, and that's to go down a one-way. They've got one alternative at the bottom of the street, which is a one-way. There's a pinch point right out here that's been created that creates a traffic hazard, in my opinion, which causes them to go up Lakeview, which is already a racetrack. So that's going to be a real problem in our opinion. The other thing is parking on Lakeview, which is a narrow street already. The people on the Lakeview side of the structure are going to have to, so first of all, you got one parking spot where two is required. So if you have people with two cars in that structure, they're going to park on Lakeview. So it's almost impossible for us to back out of our driveway on Lakeview when you've got cars on both sides of the road. So there's young kids on Lakeview, and it's going to be a problem. Somebody's going to get hurt. So those are my concerns. And last point, Chuck, I'd like you to provide me the rules on why I can't allocate my time to somebody else in this meeting.
I'll be here at 8 o'clock on Thursday if you want to come in.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. Any more?
Yes.
Yep.
Can I go? Sure. I'm gonna turn and face this way.
All right.
So it's out of the way. And
Yes.
you can
Take your
see it.
name and address.
Sure.
Please.
All right. My name is Bob Darovic and I live at 230 Lakeview Street. My property is,
Which is
It's fun.
sure.
right here. This is our
Uh,
property.
okay.
It's DAROVIC.
You were the lot that almost got
Yep.
burned.
Yeah.
If you take a look, our house is in the southwest corner of the property. And
Right here.
all right, let me face it like that.
Let everything know.
Okay. So I'm gonna read through this. We'd like to share some of our concerns with the proposed plan that would absolutely devalue our property if not addressed. Our property is a single family home that is on the southwest corner on all site plans, which we just talked about. We are for development of this property, but the proposed development should not overshadow the existing single family homes in the neighborhood that currently exist. The density, proposing this many units on a 3-acre property is concerning. We'd like to see the plan revised to fewer units or even possibly single family homes, which is more consistent with the current neighborhood. But let's discuss our primary concerns with this property or this proposed development. All right, the dumpster enclosure. The dumpster enclosure, the site plan shows a 20-foot wide dumpster enclosure that's 5 feet from the back of our house. The back of our property. Our home is 29 feet wide in the back, and this dumpster would be our new view out our kitchen window. Furthermore, how are we supposed to enjoy our deck with this dumpster only feet away? The smell, constant opening and closing of the dumpster, as well as the garbage pickup, slamming the dumpster back down on the ground when it's empty is all very concerning for us. This is an absolute eyesore and unnecessary. Our question is how many units are needed for a dumpster? We'd like to see units maybe possibly have garbage cans. We are only talking about 7 garbage cans with this proposed development. They're going to have individual water bills, so adding townwide garbage service would make more sense. They can use this cart storage for storing the garbage cans as well. We've extensively looked at every one of the other researched multifamily development homes or properties in Culver, and there's a few of them that have garbage cans, and there's a few of them. The dumpster is located out by the street, and 0 of them that have a dumpster within 5 feet of their residence. There's also 0 that require a garbage truck to reverse over 60 feet backwards and up onto a one-way street in reverse. Not sure how safe that will be. I could go on and on about the dumpster. You know, we could, I'm gonna go to the next one. Let's look at the sidewalk next to Lakeshore Drive. Can you highlight that so I know what you know what I'm talking about? So there's a sidewalk that goes between Lakeview, our property, and all the way to the back parking lot. Nope, other way, down. Yep, so hold the cursor up, please. A little bit higher, higher. Up. Right there, stop. Okay. There's 7 parking spots. There's 7 parking spots in the back there. And those parking spots can have access to the back of the 3 units that face Lakeview Street, building A, I believe. There's a sidewalk that goes right next to our house. It's 2 feet from our window, our bedroom window. There, we're also seeing that this is, you know, if you cut out that sidewalk from the back of the building to Lakeshore Drive, add green space, add fencing and fence off around our property to keep it separated, greenery. We feel like this is going to be a path where golf carts are going to fly through, right 2 feet from our house. You could reach out on the sidewalk and touch the house from that area. You know, and I'll let you go ahead and I just want to think, because this is important. And I don't know, this is more of a question. The proposed golf cart storage to be built, I've been in contact with Bob Porter, and you know, I've been in contact with Bob Porter talking about our water and sewer line issues, or not issues, water and sewer lines where they go. So let me read it so it's perfect. The proposed golf cart storage is to be built possibly over my water sewer lines, which Bob Porter will be looking into further for us after discussion. Is this an issue? Who is responsible that needs to be replaced during construction due to the heavy machinery being used? Or how do we get access to it after construction if needed? And that's just that's just a question out there because we're not familiar with that. So go ahead, you can grab your points.
Yeah, my name's Lindy Dervick. I'm also at 230 Lakeview Street. We have owned this property for the last 14 years. And in that time, we've seen that the 415 Lakeshore be a booming business, a booming restaurant to commercial, and then it's became dilapidated and ultimately burned down. We are absolutely invested in this property. We've both taken time off work to go with the town to testify to get this building deemed unsafe so that it could be torn down before the gentleman set it on fire. So obviously we are invested in this property. We absolutely want to see it develop. We've actually had the same company remodel our home as well. We have nothing but wonderful things to say about their work. And we absolutely want to see something in this space. But it's got to be the right fit. And this is too much and too small of a space, and it's going to deteriorate everyone's property around there. So I'm asking you just we need to take another look. We're all for the development, but it's too much. It's too much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy Gordon, 221 Lakeview Street. I'm Tracy Gordon. I am a full-time resident here. I own the property, just like I said, at 221 Lakeview Street. I am very concerned about this proposed plan and its negative effects that it will have for the residents of Lakeview Street and our community. As it stands right now, Lakeview Street is currently a drag strip, as Doug said. We race up and down. Cars are racing up and down our street, going through town, cutting off certain areas because of one-ways. Traffic has increased because of the one-ways on Washington Street, and Coolidge has been a one-way since I can remember. But Lakeview Street is narrow when there are 2 cars parked on either side of the street. There's not enough room for 2 cars going up in opposite directions to pass. And I can tell you this because I have a 16-year-old that's trying to learn how to drive. It is very difficult, and she is very nervous, and it's rough. This proposed plan will only increase our traffic on Lakeview Street and create potential dangerous situations for our residents and for our street. I'm also concerned about the parking on Lakeview Street. As of now, bottom half of Lakeview Street is currently being used for parking for the Harbor condominiums, which is located at the end of the Lakeview Street. The proposed plan does not provide adequate parking for these units, because I think it's been said a few times. And I feel like this will just become more of a parking area than anything on our street and around our streets. Honestly, I feel like this proposed plan is not what's best for our single family neighborhood. I would like to see more single family neighborhoods. I think that would be more appropriate. Also like to say that I'm not against you and what you're doing. I just think that I've had this house for 15 years, been in my family for 20 before that. I'm not going anywhere. And I just want this to be the right thing for our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We have anybody? Oh,
Well, I live, my name's Yvonne Shepherd, 427 Lakeview, so I'm Lakeview a block up, half a block. So I feel like also it's too much in a small space. And I feel like the parking's going to overtake Lakeview down there. It's going to move up to our block, which is going to cause more problems, or it's going to be on Lakeshore. People are going to have boats, they're going to have extra cars. There's not only going to be 2 cars, there's going to be multiple cars at each one of those. It might be different throughout the year. The summer's going to be worse, but I just think 7 units on that small of a space, and I've lived here 30 years, way too much. Thank you.
Thank you.
somebody else.
My name's Andrea Sinachi. I live at 317 West Washington Street.
Which sector you get that?
Go on.
Okay.
Is that West Washington?
317 West Washington.
Thank you.
And it's a building project, but my concern is changing it from commercial space to a HUD. And I guess that stems from me being involved in several organizations in the community, which I chose to be a member of because of their commitment to the community and making Culver a better, more attractive place for current and future full-time residents and visitors alike. In the developed Culver resident attention studies, the priorities that were identified to raise the attractiveness of Culver and make the community home to current part-time residents and prospective new full-time residents. Those priorities identified in the study were to implement more year-round activities with emphasis on wintertime, prioritize reliable broadband, as well as build a remote workspace out which would be useful for those who work from home and make it more attractive for those people to move here. So when you're talking about finding the right thing for this particular space, I would encourage those to look into keeping it commercial and maybe making something that will benefit the community as well. And I hate to tell somebody what to do with their money, but I'm just saying, I think it kind of goes against these initiatives in Culver and with these organizations around town. If I didn't speak up and say something about it, I think the route we're headed, if we keep building more housing and more space for people to stay during the summer, we still end up with a dead winter and dead businesses, and people can't really make it work. So I don't want to see the town of Culver die out, or even just become a place where people come to stay and eat and drink. I would rather have some more activity in the town if anybody cares. But I think I'm part of the demographic that the town is trying to attract, so maybe my opinion don't matter, but I just think I wanted to make those points known, and we've been, doing this study. You've asked the people what they want. They tell you what they want. You give it to them, and it'll be successful. So that's just where I stand on it. I wish everybody the best.
Appreciate it. Somebody over there. Oh, okay.
Karen Craig at 445 Vandalia Street. And
It's just
I'm sorry?
Karen. Okay. Is that Karen with K?
Yes.
I see. Okay, thank you. And Delia, I'm sorry.
Vandalia, 445 Vandalia Street. And my question isn't important like these questions. I'm interested to know what it's going to look like, what kind of materials it's going to be. The charm in Culver is unique and it's beautiful. And, I would hate for them to go, they look very boxy at this point, just looking at a black and white picture. I'd like to know what the materials they're going to be using, brick, or is it going to be the Culver glue, or what are they going to do?
I know we have some drawings, and I know you have some as well. That would be a bad time to answer that question.
There's the, elevation rendering. More of them.
Is this good for us to address some of them?
Yeah. We can.
Wanna wait till everyone-
I think there was one other.
Yeah, there was.
Somebody else?
I can hear somewhere.
Yeah, take that back.
Yeah, take it back down. Yeah.
Katie Waymeyer, 313 South Main. Katie, do you have to read to call or do that? If you would like to do that, that would be wonderful. I thought I just did want to expound on what Andrea had to say. I think that we need to look at this far more in the big picture of what's going on with the town. That is our main thoroughfare and we have pleasant residential homes along there, but the town needs greater business development and changing the zoning on that particular piece of real estate is really further dividing the Main Street shopping area from the uptown and the downtown. That has been long been a contention, and I don't think that it's in our best interest to make another dead stop of private homes and deterring people from coming down from the lake into the main downtown.
I did bring your message that you sent in. So I think we have council members, but maybe not planning commission. I'm passing around the two, I received the documented comments that kind of go in the record. And so Katie's is one of them. And then the other one comes from Katie.
Yeah, did you want to read it?
Sure. To all concerned, the proposed plans for developing a property at 415 Lakeshore have been circulating via email. The details are somewhat vague, so I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Prior to the hearing on Tuesday, I would like to respectfully submit my observations and concerns on this proposal. As a full-time resident of town, business owner, board member of the Chamber of Commerce, town representative of the Marshall County Tourism Board, and a stakeholder in the town of Culver, I have observed the following from the proposed plan. One, this is a 7-unit townhome complex with conveniently covered golf cart parking situated on a primary road through town. This is not workforce housing. With green space of less than 2 feet, it does not attract families into the local school district. Other than its initial construction, it does not promote job growth. These are clearly vacation condos, secondary homes, and are at best academy parent investment properties that turn every 4 years. As a community, we've already suffered enough dependence on academy scraps and lost almost all public access to our own lake by private investors. These are facts of our current situation, but we can do better. Number two, we are a tourist town. The town of Culver has long had difficulty helping visitors to understand that both uptown and downtown are vibrant centers. Uptown businesses naturally enjoy the commerce from both lake visitors and proximity to the academy and the only public lake access at the park. Downtown businesses often suffer from lack of foot traffic, high commercial property taxes on high maintenance buildings, and off-season income droughts. The distance between the Lakeshore Business District and Main Street needs to be narrowed, not increased, allowing this current C1 zoning to fall to continue creates an even wider gap. FYI, it's a C2. Number three, we need to attract more business, not more part-time residential options. The economic health and growth of Culver depends heavily on small business. As the owner of a lodging facility, I often play the role of concierge to my guests. Admittedly, and with great regret, I fail to vigorously promote my own business because I feel guilty that the number and types of tourist attractions, shops, and activities in our town are very limited. The concept that a rising tide raises all ships is very much in play in our town. We need to concentrate on a bigger picture of full-time resident attraction, self-supporting economic growth, and cultural enhancement, betterment of our residents and visitors alike. Number four, I realize that a precedent was set last year when a C1 to R1 zoning was granted on Main Street, but in that situation, the structure was historical and the owner in question was indeed planning to remodel and use the property for a personal family home. In the case of 415 Lakeshore, the structure was already destroyed by fire. The real estate was obtained at auction at a bargain price. Units will be sold to the highest bidder and the developer will walk away with proceeds. This is clearly a done for personal profit situation. The town cannot afford to relinquish already limited commercial assets to this type of rezoning. I also realize that the buyer has a right to improve the property and realize a profit for the effort. If the request was for mixed-use development that is first floor commercial space, with condos above, I would feel differently. This is not the proposal I see before the council. Thank you for your time and consideration. Best regards, Kitty Wong. Did you want? Dear Culver Town Council and Culver Planning Commission, I'd like to express my opposition to petition number 2022-003, the application to rezone 415 East Lakeshore from Zone C2 to PUD. Generally, I'm opposed to most all changes in zoning law, specifically changes that would allow multi-unit apartments on our quiet Main Street. The single-family homes on the street are beautiful. I'm also opposed to most Culver Building Code variance requests, which of course are not the subject of tonight's meeting. However, if the requests to change the zoning laws are granted, one might reasonably believe the builder would soon be asking for height restriction, setback, parking lot, and etc. building code variances. I think apartments are ugly. They do not fit in that neighborhood. One city comes to mind that has seen a huge increase of apartments, Carmel, Indiana. That city used to be beautiful, and now there are so many apartments there. I think it looks horrible, and traffic has gotten horrible there too. Culver's certainly not like Carmel, of course, but I want to keep Culver Culver. Please vote to deny the rezoning request. J.D. Cassim.
Thank you. No, if there's any more?
Doug Barnhart, 421 and 415 Lakeview. I could reiterate what many of these people have said, but I just want to be on record. Part of it, Lakeview already, unless you offset the cars, it's hard even just to get one car. It's going to over to the upper end of Lakeview also. And many of the other things I said, just mark ditto for me.
Thank you.
Hi, Barb Johnson, 311 East Lakeshore Drive. I want to also reiterate that parking. I don't think it's an adequate amount of parking that was proposed now. I do think that, like what she said, it is going to fall into the other streets in park cars. As you guys know, Lakeshore Drive in the summer, there is no parking. Typically doing different town activities. Trying to pull out of our driveways, including the neighbors, it's dangerous. But we're basically blindly, slowly pulling out of our driveways. I think having that extra, having those extra cars there is not, just not safe.
Any more?
Yes, are you taking folks from the phone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Did your name and your address?
Yeah, this is Susan Northrup. We live directly, we own the house directly across the street at 404 East Lakeshore. I'm from Carmel, Indiana, which is kind of funny that the lady, a couple of speakers previous mentioned Carmel, Indiana, because we're seeing exactly what she's saying. But ironically, my first point is similar to that, in that I went to the academy in the 80s. I graduated with 12 other homeowners at Culver. The reason that we bought homes there was to carry on our legacy and have our children go and enjoy the Mayberry that we've always known Culver to be. And while it has modernized to a modern day Mayberry, most of the people we run across are people from Chicago or other busy cities that are trying to escape to the modern day Mayberry for peace, for enjoyment of walking, for plenty of parking, for the enjoyment of Main Street and the beach and the cleanliness. We love to escape there as often as we can from Carmel, Indiana, but I'm going to look across the street at Chicago, Illinois. I'm really disappointed at the height of this structure, that there's 3 bedrooms, the number of units that are trying to be jammed in there with only 1 dedicated parking space per unit. That, I think, seems a little out of balance as far as the parking ratio to bedrooms. So we know that we're going to have a lot of folks parking right in front of our home, which is a snow removal route. It's also where we put our trash cans to be picked up every day. You know, so the whole look and feel of downtown, I feel like, is changing in a way that makes me very sad from being there for so long. But I also think that there's a little bit of planning on parking and the dumpsters and that beautiful brick street, like everyone else has mentioned. So I guess I want to understand better what the Culvertown, you know, requirements are for parking spaces per bedrooms, if there is one, and how the parking overflow will affect everything that goes on Main Street, from garbage pickup to snow removal, et cetera. Has that been thought through?
Yep. My name, can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait, I gotta
Wait a
go
minute.
back.
Hold on a second.
Hold on just a second.
Susan, can we ask Susan to repeat her last name?
Susan, what was your last name?
Northrop, Northrop.
That was Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
You want to proceed?
My name is Matt Nagel. I live on 221 Coolidge Court on the brick alley east of the building that's we're reviewing. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm calling in from the West Coast right now.
Yeah. You're fine.
Okay. My main 2 problems with the development are the traffic. I live at the home with my wife and 2 children, one of those being 1 and 5 years old. There is no separation on the one-way alley of Coolidge between the sidewalk and the street. There's no parkway. Cars are forced to park with their tires on the sidewalk. And this building would essentially increase the amount of cars parking up and down the street significantly. When there's cars parked on the sidewalk, you walk on the street. And we're going to have extremely high traffic now with this many units. Plus, if I'm walking down the sidewalk, there is what looks to be a light pole in the middle of one of the sidewalks as well, which is strange to see. It breaks my heart to think that my children, you know, I can't let them run in the yard without worrying of the high traffic coming down Coolidge Court. I'd also want to talk about the drainage. It doesn't look like there's much, if any, permeable space on this development. The current storm sewer is running down Coolidge and towards the brown condos at the bottom of the hill. Cannot handle a 2-inch rain. I have videos of walking through the rain at the bottom of the hill that are almost knee deep. Now we're going to dump 1/3 of an acre of water down these storm sewers without any plan to improve the storm sewer system. That's a major concern to me. I would expect that the condos, the brown condos at the bottom, to also take on quite a bit of water from this additional, from the lack of storm sewer.
Do you wish to repeat your section about the storm sewer issue? Because you were breaking up there.
Yeah. The storm sewer as it is today cannot handle a heavy 2-inch rain. And when we do get a heavy rain, there is a significant amount of water at the bottom of Coolidge Court, water that nearly goes to the brown condo garages. And the goal here is to essentially put all of the water on this entire property, essentially down this storm sewer. And this is going to definitely have consequences on the homeowners around the area, specifically the brown condos.
And since you're calling in, the drainage has been looked at by the developers. I think we're gonna have a lot less problem with water than what we have when it was currently C2 and the use that they had at that time.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is John Shapiro. I'm at 222 Coolidge Court, across the street from Matt.
Hold on a second.
You get your name?
Sure, John Shapiro, Shapiro,
Okay.
222 Coolidge. This is, I'll be quick because it's been said, but Coolidge is not a street that should have more traffic on it than it already does. It's very, very narrow. From the looks of the plan, people are going to be coming out and going right up the alley, which is basically right next to my house. If you walk up the alley now, you'll see that no one can get in or out of the alley without running my property over. I mean, we're getting close to my stairs, the erosion just from people driving over it, and that's going to get even worse. One parking spot per is going to put more cars on Coolidge, as well as Lakeview and as well as Lakeshore. As it stands now, there's 5 or 6 total spaces on Coolidge Court. And as Matt said, those are already parked on the sidewalk. So unless there's additional parking, I just don't see how this can go through in its current state. And that's about it.
Thank you.
I don't.
That would be up to the town council.
We're not talking in there, but I want to talk. Any concerns?
There's a comment on Teams.
Oh, no one online?
Yeah, but it's a written comment.
Okay.
It said the BZA board made the owners of 404 East Lakeshore take a section of 6-foot fence down that was 12 foot further back from the street than this 27-foot high building would be from Lakeview Street. Cars heading north on Lakeview would have to drive past the sidewalk to be able to see the traffic coming from the east on Lakeshore. Bicyclists and runners would be at high risk, as would be pedestrians. And that was from KK. And then Susan said, we want it to be commercial so that it sits empty like the many open retail spaces downtown ?
Thank you.
I will try to get it.
Thank you.
Oh, Howard Nagel had, I was saying that.
Do anything?
Was there a Nagel who spoke
Yeah,
already?
That was a Matt Nagel.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Howard Nagel.
Okay. He can speak if
He's
he
got to unmute himself
Okay.
or call back in.
Good evening. Can you hear me? It's Howard Nagel.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Howard Nagel, Nagel. Reside at 440 State Street, Culver.
Read that again, please. Address?
440 State Street in Culver.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
You can't hear you. You're breaking up.
My apologies. 440 State Street.
We're not hearing you at all.
Ask him to enter his comments in the chat or email them to Karen.
My apologies. Any better?
He has a bad connection.
Yeah, you have a bad connection, but
We can
My
hear the
apologies.
conference call.
Get away from him. Enter
Yeah.
his comments.
You can
He
just put
could-
them in the chat or send them.
We can hear Howard.
pardon?
They can hear him on phone.
Hello, am I tuned into the meeting?
Come on. Yeah, could somebody online interpret for you or speak for you?
No, I'd just like to reiterate what Matthew Nagel, my son on Coolidge, stated, and my concerns are that, you know, we have a third of an acre here, and that's 21 units to the acre. It's just way too dense. The runoff concerns, the sight lines, the buildings are so tall with the flat roofs, the shadows, what it does to the Dervick property. So we need to tone it down and be real for a third of an acre in a residential community. The runoff, detention, the whole works. But I think you're hearing from a lot of people, so you guys will take all that into account and do something that's good for Culver. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it.
Do you have anything else on the wall? Here. No one else has anything? Oh, yeah,
Becky Taggett, 313 Lakeshore Drive. I guess what we're saying, they came to this town because of the academies. Culver does have a unique charm, and progress that Culver needs some more housing, but this loses that charm. And I think it does invite a little bit more of just parents coming in, purchasing and selling and having a 4-year rotation of homes. So I just wanted to say I love Culver. I love the beautiful homes. They're old, they're unique. It's a neat neighborhood. And I just think that perhaps the plan could be readjusted, you know, whether it's some where it's still residential, but you also have some businesses that can come in. But I would like to see something that helps Culver in the long term, not just right now.
thank you. I know everybody's jumping other seats. All right, anybody else? At all? If not at this time. Barry? Oh, yeah.
Time for us to address.
Yeah.
I am Sarah Jones and address is 416 Harding Court, also with Mira Custom Homes. And as many of you have spoken here, we're very good friends with a lot of these people, and our home is only a block and a half from this development. In looking at this property, our office was actually in this building prior to it being burned down by whoever might have done that. But our office was there. We've been coming to Culver for 47 years, showing my age. I think we all, those have been around a long time, remember A&R Motors there, remember City Tavern there, City Diner, the commercial buildings that were there. We aren't a retail business, so we didn't have a lot of traffic, but a lot of those other ones did. There was a lot of parking going on there when it was the restaurant, and it was a wonderful restaurant. There was constantly people coming and going. And the parking around this development won't change as far as street parking. There's all those spots that are kind of notched off in Lakeshore Drive. So the cars are not out onto Lakeshore Drive. We tried to look at this with having one spot off or on site, so off street, so that there would only be 7 spots around the whole property for parking. And I think Steve has some numbers there on how that would fit. I will say when this property first went up for sale, we don't own it. Someone approached us with doing a partnership on this. We did have a couple other people approach us to do a commercial type of thing. Back in the day, the bar was there, and then the library, and there was a lot more noise, traffic, things like that. Poor Bob and Lindy had a restaurant dumpster 3 feet from their bedroom window. And the back of their home was right 3 feet from the back of this building. I think this improves on that. Parking wise, I think you're going to have a lot less coming and going with commercial. My other concern, just being a resident of town, is seeing how many empty commercial spaces we have, and what are we getting into putting in more commercial there that might sit empty, and things could go wrong with that. And looking at that, I mean, there's things that can be tweaked. We talked about the trash situation and possibly doing trash cans instead of the dumpsters, things like that. That can all be looked at as long as, I mean, that's up to the town and how they want to handle that. And that might be a much better use. Maybe they can go in the golf cart parking area. We pride ourselves on doing quality work and how it looks, and we want it to look nice too. There are some condos right across our house here. So those are concept, a little more beachy looking because they do have a lake view. With siding, mostly brick. We're going to try and make it look as nice as possible. There was a lighting concern brought up in the past about the light poles there, and we talked, I finished them last time. If you want them taken down, great. If you don't want them, great. So we are open to many things there, but we want to do what's best for the town of Culver too, because we have a vested interest here. We're not just coming in to make money and leave, not at all. So, anything else?
Thank you.
If I may,
Yeah.
I'd like to throw a couple things out. Number one, these are not apartments. The intent is not to lease these out. There are 7 units. There are not a massive amount of units on this site. A planned unit development, and I've been doing this for 30 years. I've represented a lot of subdivisions and planned unit developments. Just as many pure residential or pure commercial as mixed use. The entire point, from my understanding, and I'll admit I'm not an attorney, but the entire point of a planned unit development ordinance is to allow creativity into a site that may have certain restrictions. This site is bounded by 3 roads. Traffic on every one of these streets. A commercial use would, of course, more traffic coming in and out on a regular basis. And depending on the type of use of commercial, could have night use, could have other things which may be just as much of an annoyance. The parking situation, as Sarah mentioned correctly, currently existing, which in my belief was to service the original commercial use of the property, that would be retasked to use for the property. That would keep the traffic off the side streets and onto Lakeshore Drive. The green space, we did exceed the requirements for green space. 10%, we provided 16.6%. As far as the issue of variances and waivers, the Board of Zoning Appeals, by definition, Board of Zoning Appeals is to basically, again, my understanding, to appeal requirements that are in the zoning. By rezoning to a planned unit development, it is defining its own requirements. Thus, again, trying to be more creative to work around issues that may exist on the site. One more thing is that, with planned unit developments, it's much easier to have mixed use. It's much easier to do things when you have 40 acres, when you have 20 acres. This is a 1/3 of an acre site. It's going to be restricted with 3 streets around it. The point is to try to create property. Mirror Homes has, in my opinion, proved time and time and again that they improve the property values of every single thing that they've built around them. This development would be no different. So we are talking again about 4 units on Lakeshore Drive, facing Lakeshore Drive, and 3 units facing Lakeview Street. As far as things along the lines of the dumpster, again, the dumpster can be removed. And if the town is willing to have the cans lined up along the street every week. The golf cart storage could accommodate things like that. That could be pushed out of the way so it's unsightly during the week. Sidewalk issues, we could remove a section of sidewalk and add a little bit more green space. But again, we are at 16% green space. We do exceed the requirements. As far as storm sewer, we have worked through all the we build a building over sewer tap, and it would be worked out one or another, shifting the building slightly or doing something in construction to make sure that didn't happen. We're trying to work with the town in every way we can. And that being said, I don't think there are too many other things here aside from issues that the town will have to discuss.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Time we can,
Excuse me. So improving the property has never been an issue, right? I mean, improving it is in everybody's interest. So that's not part of this. It's whether or not you're doing the right thing with the. That's the point. So you brought up commercial a couple different times. Is that option B? Yeah.
Not assuming that's what a lot of people just said.
hold on.
You have option B?
I'm sorry.
We do.
It had something to say earlier.
Oh, but you had to talk twice.
I know, because he's the one that proposed and kind of explained some things to the questions that were
As
asked.
the engineer, things that a three-story unit.
He kind of responded to everything. All right.
Yeah, Gil Stanley, I have a couple of questions. Excuse me. Just for clarification, when we talk about the PUD, how it kind of defines its own rules, setbacks.
Ready?
There were setbacks mentioned, zoning manual for PUD specifically, if they don't apply.
You only got about 10 minutes before it gets dark.
It's 50 feet. 15 on the side and then 10 in the rear.
Well, we had PUD that was put in condos by Com Construction over here off by the lake. And they had no 50-foot setback on that. It was a PUD with multiple uses. And all PUDs, depending on what the primary use is as far as that, could require a 50-foot setback.
What's happening?
But this lot under a PUD,
Meeting with Culver.
only under commercial can you put out on the line, but under a PUD, it has no restriction as far as setbacks. And then why it is in there, I couldn't tell you why it would actually be.
Okay, well, see, it is in there.
But it's, yeah.
So it makes it look like there's, my other question is there any issue of pavement contamination underneath the concrete?
That was all looked at, just to answer the question, and IDM has all reports and all that stuff. All right, this. All right.
Hang on. Gil, what's your address for the?
I'm sorry, 201 North Ohio Street.
Thank you.
And since everybody else is speaking, I'm gonna let you speak too now, because I had closed it, but we've got other people on the
No, I
line as
think
well.
I had the opportunity to get my statement out, right? I mean, it's not about improving the property. What was there is never coming back. It's gone. That's not debatable, right? What was there is gone. It's whether or not we do the right thing with that property, right?
Correct.
And the decisions that are made, and I get, the developer and the engineer, but we're the ones that have to look out on that every single day. We're the ones that have to protect the kids on our street.
I realize that.
That's gonna be overrun with traffic.
And-
So
We as well, we do understand that completely.
yeah, so thank you very much for letting me speak.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I appreciate it.
All right. Now, you have.
Yeah, there's more reading. Oh, we got
We got
another
one here.
one more.
All right, we got somebody online ready or
It's up to you.
go ahead and then make it
Eric
clear.
Larson, 458 Lakeview Street. So you guys have talked about parking many times. She has talked about the restaurant has survived there with commercial space when their office was there, but they also had a dedicated parking lot on that property. And from what I can see, there was 8 to 10 spaces in that lot. There's only 7 going with all of these units. So the overspill of cars is going to go out on those streets. And then you say that, well, we don't have to do a dumpster, we'll do trash cans. Well, how are you going to do trash cans if the cars are blocking the street? I mean, all this is a lot of talk, and talk is cheap when you're about to vote on this. I mean, why should this go through if these changes aren't made in concrete before it's voted through? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Everything's gonna be addressed, but at the same time, like I tried to let everybody know before, this hearing here, this public hearing that's going on right now, it's for the planning commission. And the planning commission can vote on it, does not make it written in stone. It has to go before the town council. And if the town council chooses to have other changes made or other things to fit, whatever that they require, it would have to send it back to us to either straighten out what other problems still exist and we can send it back, but we are not the ones that actually put
But once
in
you
the writing.
approve it, you've opened the gates.
Pardon?
Is there any town, are all the town council people here, or do we have to have these conversations again?
Technically, from a process standpoint, the plan commission has 4 options. They can approve the rezoning, they can approve it with modifications, they cannot recommend rezoning, or they cannot comment at all. So those are the 4 options they have. And then it moves to the council, and the council has 30 days to respond. If they don't respond, although they do have to have a public hearing as well, if they don't respond, whatever the plan commission has adopted would automatically go into effect if not responding in 30 days. So they can ask for modifications to be made if they want. The council can say, we want modifications. So like when we have a recommendation that comes from plan commission, the council can say, we don't like this aspect of it, or we do like this aspect, or, you know, and they can say yay or nay as well, but both are required to have a public hearing.
Is all the town council members here right now?
I believe so. If they're not, they're
Late.
connected on Teams, like,
So they've all heard the overwhelming objections, so we don't. have to do this again.
Well, under public hearing, you
You're
don't have
entitled
to, but you can. Okay, now, we've got, Craig is online right now with a comment,
or Maureen, I think it was.
There's Craig and
Oh.
and Maureen.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Mesowitz, M-I-S-E.
You're breaking up.
I'm watching via the internet, so I don't know what the signal's like, but my name is Craig Mesowitz, M-I-S-E-W-I-C.
Still breaking up.
I'll have to give the floor to my wife, Maureen. Thanks.
It's the connection. It's that connection.
That was
It's not the audio, it's just the connection. They're probably comments.
Craig, if you could possibly write down your comments in the
Chat.
chat.
And they would be heard. Okay.
We will read them aloud.
Yeah, Maureen.
Maureen, go ahead.
Hi, Maureen Dickinson at 522 North Main. I'm just really surprised that the Stallings or Mirror are actually trying to do something this big in this small space. There are so many other places around town, even on the outskirts.
We just lost.
I don't know. Can you hear me? I'll write it. Can we hear me?
We're having trouble with your line as well.
Okay. I'll write it in then. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Maureen, try again.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, much better.
Okay, great. I'm at 522 Main. I'm just really concerned. Everything everyone is saying has been pretty much on point with the large monstrosity that wants to be put in this little tiny space. I do feel that it hasn't been, you know, I know that that the Stallings or the Mirror own all this property now, but I don't understand why something like this can't be on the outskirts of town, down Main Street. There's some empty spaces there if they want to develop something at this of this grandeur. But that town area where this is on Lakeview, Lakeshore, Street, all of it, it's, rezoning is, I get it, possibility, but whether there are empty spaces for commercial, then change those commercial spaces into something like this might be a better idea for that family and for the town. I just think it's hard.
Thank you.
Craig.
Craig. Okay, Craig's trying now. Go ahead, Craig.
Thank you. My name is Craig Mezowitz. That was my wife that just spoke. So I'm at 522 North Main Street. I've been going to meetings like this for over 40 years. This is the first time I've seen this many people speak on an issue in all the years that I've been there. And Marshall County in Chuck DeWitt has one of the finest people in the state and in the United States. And I think that not enough time has been spent looking at all the issues here. And to me, there's a money grab somewhere. I just can't figure out where it is, because people that have spoken like Matt Nagel, Howard Nagel, you know, they're in the same game. They're in the building game. They're telling you what the problems are, and they're telling it not because it's not their project. It's because it's the facts. You got parking issues, which are very dangerous in a small town, drainage issues, which are even more dangerous in a small town. And I know that because my hometown is going through that right now. To change the sewer requirements and the drainage issues is an unsurmountable amount of money. And the water that's sitting and draining, not draining properly, is causing all kinds of problems. And you don't want that in your town, and you don't want it in a corner like that. I mean, I understand the building burned down. I understand the situation. I feel sorry for the people that live next door, Bob and Lindy. They're going to have a dumpster or multiple dumpsters or 7 units garbage right there next to their house. And sometime they'll come home and they won't be able to park in their own driveway because people will be on the street and parked. And then the Northrops said it best. There's too many small kids around that area to increase the traffic and not take care of all the other things that you take care of when you're doing a development in a town. So I'm dead against it. I'd hope you'd reconsider and look at it a little different way. Especially you, Bobby, you know, a young guy getting involved in the community like you.
You kind of broke up at the end there, the last minute.
Can you hear me now? I just said I would hope you would take some additional time to consider everything that was said today. I'm telling you from fact that this is the most people I've ever heard speak out on an issue. And I'm looking at your faces from the site, and I can see Bobby Cooper sitting there to the left. And as a young guy getting involved in the community, Bob, I would hope that you would encourage your commission members to really take a look at this and really look at what the long-term harm a project like this can do to your little town. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. If there's nobody else online, we're going to close the hearing. You entertain a motion?
So moved to close the public hearing.
Okay, close the public hearing.
Second.
Second. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thanks to everybody. At this time, anybody, we've heard everybody address all the issues, and I'll start with you, Mrs. Reddy. Anything that you want to comment, question as far as going to Dean or developers?
No, not at this. Not anything.
Mr. Goode?
Well, concerned about what the attorney had to say about following the rules and the laws of going from whatever area we have to a PUD. Let's make sure we follow the rules we have, and if we can't, then direct it to the BZA.
It's a rezone, not a
Yeah,
variance hearing.
it's not a
They may
variance
need
or
a
thing.
variance.
It's just either a PUD or it's not a PUD.
Currently C2.
Mr. Cooper?
Yeah, I've got a handful of comments on this really. Just a quick show of hands without any feedback. Are there any citizens in the room that are in favor of this moving forward as presented? Anybody at all? Handful? Okay. So.
Take the builder out of that.
Sure. So I said.
Builder is a resident.
So I guess taking the emotion out of this and looking at it objectively, looking at the expectations of a PUD, you know, we've got a handful of criteria laid out here. So I don't see how this really meets any of the expectations of a PUD. So I don't think we provide substantial buffers or transitions between areas of land use or developmental densities. Enhancing the appearance of Culver by conserving areas of natural beauty or natural green spaces. Counteract urban monotony and congestion on the streets. Promote architecture that is compatible with the surroundings. Buffer differing types of land use and intensities of development from each other so as to minimize the adverse impact which new development may have on existing or zone development. Promote and protect the environmental integrity of the site and its surroundings and provide suitable design responses to the specific environmental needs of the site and surrounding area, or pursue implementation of the comprehensive plan and complete street initiative. I fail to see anything that really supports any of those criteria, and I see a lot of things that kind of go against what we're trying to do with the PUD. I think if we move forward in recommending this, I think that kind of makes us tone deaf to the community's wants and needs. That's just kind of where I stand with it. So not opposed to the development of the property. I don't think it fits. I can definitely agree with the sentiment of it's not right for that piece of land.
Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you.
I have to follow that.
Thank you, Bob.
I agree with a lot of what he said. It just seems that having 3-story structures in mostly 2-story areas, especially when it's more of a brick formation, just doesn't kind of gel with the houses around it. Because they might be 3 stories, but they're going to have sloped roofs. So all
Story, the one has a basement.
but almost like 25 feet tall. Yeah. So the continuity and yeah. So, and then also the concerns about the corner, the visibility and things like that. You might have the green space, which is more green space than is currently on it, which is, it's a dirt lot, but the city tavern never had more than a grass strip ahead of it, but it's still a substantially small amount of green space, but more than is required. But yeah, so that's my concern.
Yeah. Anytime that you can respond to any of their concerns.
May I? I just have one simple question, and I'm just trying to spitball what would be best for the property. At least with a residential use, it blends with the other residential uses around it. If it were a commercial use, would you have the buffers? Would you be reducing traffic? Would you actually be addressing any of the issues that have been presented tonight?
If you put like a commercial on the bottom and then residential on top, it would still be way too dense for commercial, residential, or just plain commercial, for that matter.
I have an objection. If you're going to allow the petitioner to speak again, then the hearing is being reopened and due process isn't being met by not allowing anyone else to speak.
This is allowing people that are going to make the decision to understand as far as issues that he has concerns with to see if they're going to be met before they're ever vote.
There was an opportunity for that when you specifically inquired of each board member whether they had questions of the developer. If you're going to allow additional testimony, I'm going to request that the opponents have additional time as well.
So said. All right.
100% agree.
You have anything?
I don't have anything at this time.
My only concern is, and it was brought up as far as with the trash cans instead of the dumpster. But then we brought up about the traffic being the problem, which we've got that problem throughout the town. Regardless, to be honest with you. I live on South Ohio Street, which is a narrow street. I've got the racing, I've got all that. And not saying anybody here is wrong or right in what I appreciate everything that brought. My concern is when he brought up about the sidewalk between their house and that structure there and your window, which that sidewalk to me is something that I had never noticed either. And I would actually think about that being a change as far as in the footprint on that. As far as everything else, I don't really have that many objections. I know the traffic and everything else. It's not any more than what it has been for 30 years that I've been. So That's my opinion as well, or the rest of it.
Well, I guess the town's out of control on traffic.
Yeah.
Start making some arrests.
It's a small thing.
More yellow lines along the sidewalk.
You're
That's not my job. I don't think.
you're understaffed though.
I think there's a lot of genuine concern, but there has been some concern by part. We were presented something that's saying it's our rules are not applying. I guess my thought is, I think we should postpone the thing and give us an opportunity to reevaluate our own rules to make sure we stand within the guidance of everything.
Appreciate that. Mr. Osborne.
I really don't have much to say, other than, the people have spoken. That's powerful for me on how I decide things, but the people, what their feelings are really mean a lot to me.
Right.
I represent, we all represent
Right.
the people.
Well said, Mr. Osborne. Mr. Fox.
Just
Now we should
get
get
on
on
comments. I'm not generally concerned with the idea of this being multifamily residences. I think it's far preferable to A, the current state of the property, B, as a C2 with no vote by this body, with no veto by the town council. We could have a service station go in there. We could have an auto body repair. We could have a dog kennel. I do not see how any of those uses would be compatible with the neighborhood. It's just an historic anomaly that it's C2, going back to the time that it was a car dealership. But C2 just does not fit. So that makes no sense to me, which is why I do favor residential. I think that the nearby residents have raised a lot of concerns that I think, one, practically need to be addressed before there would be a yes vote out of this body. And two, need to be addressed. I do not want a dumpster 3 feet from my bedroom window.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't want the
And,
sidewalk.
and I
into the
think the
street.
developers have
That's
expressed some willingness to go back and recalibrate. I would like to see that property developed. I'd like to see it developed as residential, but it needs work before I'd be able to vote yes on it.
All right. At this time, under the public hearing and our place here to vote, and I think Ms. Monroe stated, you can either make a motion to and you vote for it, you can vote against it, or you can vote or require specifications, stipulations, amendments, whatever, or you can not vote.
Could we have a motion to table the vote until they come back with modifications per the comments and what will be recorded in the minutes? Hopefully, if I got everything correct.
I perfectly agree with that. Because it seems like what we need, but in procedural part of it, I think we either have to no vote and you know what I'm saying, in order to postpone it.
Do the
so to
process
speak,
again,
that-
pretty much.
Yeah, if they're changing enough of it, it's gonna have to go.
Now, one way till you vote again.
You know, this is a first, I've been on this thing for
I
22
think
years.
the developer and the builder can ask.
This board to be tabled.
At this time, we would like to ask for it to be tabled.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
We're done.
we're done.
We're done.
I make a motion, we table.
No,
No,
They're pulling it.
Is that what
it doesn't take a vote to take.
you want them, is that what you want to do? You want to request to table it? Then so done. There's no voting, there's no anything other than meeting. I would. Yeah,
So.
on our agenda, we do have.
I guess I don't.
Barry,
Can I have just a pause for just a second?
yeah, so the council had a public hearing scheduled. If there's no recommendation.
Please,
coming
everyone back, please.
From the plan commission, I will need to confirm with the attorney, but I believe since there's no recommendation coming before the council, there wouldn't be a reason to go through this exercise again at council. So if they submit a new plan at some point.
Miss-
Thank you.
Mr.
Am I correct in that they have pulled their application? This body is not going to respond with a recommendation to rezone or not to rezone. So there would be no point for the council to have another public hearing at the next meeting, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So
I just wanted to make sure because I didn't want to waste anyone's
they're
time.
going to pull the application.
Because I think if you vote, then.
Yeah, because I mean,
it would go down.
yeah, because my understanding, we could either not vote but be the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't want to waste anyone's time.
I just want to make sure that we were doing it procedurally first. Everybody's safe on that. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Barry, I just want to be clear here.
Okay.
We're not voting because technically there's nothing now to vote on.
Correct.
At this time.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, all right, so moving forward, next thing on my agenda, and I wasn't going to address this, but we have citizen input. And if anybody has anything to say, not regarding this, everything has already been said that, but if you have anything else other than any concerns, input whatsoever, as far as what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, we can take it.
I think you did the right thing, but the question is this all being recorded?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it, so it's public record?
Oh, yes, definitely.
So when this comes back up, we can play this recording.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, if it's recorded, they can actually look at it too and say, and address their concerns, and that's what people. Yeah, and we do too. And we'll have that recording, so, I mean, you're not talking to deaf ears. I'm just letting you know.
You guys did the right thing.
One comment, not related to this, but, you know, the attorney did present some interesting dynamics in in the zoning code, which the plan commission is zoning code. I would suggest that the plan commission, they take that input and take a look at that. I mean, should zoning, should the district standards for PUD even be in there? Creating this dynamic.
I'm trying to explain a little bit what you addressed there, though. Under a PUD, as far as the way that zoning is written, and as far as procedures, it is up to the town that we set. In other words, the planning commission, we write the ordinances the way we think would fit our town according to our comprehensive plan. And I know you can take attorneys from other towns, whatever, and they can say what the PUDs say and how procedures are done. But as long as ours are written the way they are and they're approved by the state, all our ordinances are as far as when it's written out. So those ordinances are, procedure is our job to follow that procedure. So you are right. But as far as procedures that anybody wants to walk in and present, which we have to follow, it doesn't always work that way either. But I do appreciate everything, all the input and everything.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Will there be a bigger room for the next hearing?
If you can talk the builders into building a bigger room.
I got the property, we can build.
There you go.
Town hall.
All right. If nothing else, I entertain a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.